Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Denver, Colorado, it's time for Franchise Bible Coach Radio. Now, here are your hosts.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Franchise Bible Coach Radio podcast with Rick and Rob. I'm Rick Grossman, and I'll be your co-host today, along with my co-host, Rob Gandley, and I'll introduce him in a minute. But I'm excited about today's show because it's number one in a series of 4 that we're going to be doing over the next several months. And we're going to be exploring the firsthand experience of someone going through the process of franchising their business. And so we have a very special guest today. We have the CEO and founder of EagleONE Group from Cincinnati, Ohio, Mike Hutzel. And Mike is going to kind of share his firsthand experience with us, not only today, but through the article that I'll post as an article post that'll match up and align with this podcast. But for the next several months, as he moves through the process of franchising, not only himself, but his team and his family and the people around him and his customers and clients, and answer some of those burning questions that you may have if you are a business owner that's been thinking about franchising, but just can't quite wrap your head around what it looks like, what it feels like. And this is your chance to peek behind the curtain of someone going through the experience. So first of all, we want to thank Mike for being willing to go through this process and share with us, and his team as well. And very excited to kind of unpack this over the next few months. So thank you, Mike, and welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, we're very, very excited to go through this process with you, Mike. So I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Rob Gandley, and he's going to get started with some introductory questions, and then we're going to start getting into it. So Rob, take it away.
All righty. Well, hey, it's great to be here, and it's exciting. Franchising is such a great concept for business growth. And when you're a visionary, like guys like Mike, and you can get that vision out there at a much greater scale, it's exciting to see. And we're right at the beginning stages here. This is an experienced business, and they do great work. Now we could take it to another level. And this is what we're doing today is taking this step by step and taking you through this journey with Mike. And so it's great to have him. I just want to take a quick to say thank you to our sponsor, Entrepreneur Franchise Advisor, Entrepreneur Magazine. Thank you for their support of both the Franchise Bible, the book, and of the show here. So again, it's great to have Mike Hutzel on board here today. So Mike, as we jump into the interview here, I wanted to ask you, like the very first thing we like to talk about is, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get to where you are? How did EagleONE become EagleONE, and then a little bit about the business model and who you serve?
Yeah, so my partner Diane and I, guys, have been in the industry for 30 years, back in the fall of 1990, and it's had its own sort of evolution during that time. We really started out as a call center operation and kind of evolved into what we call ourselves today, which is a full services marketing firm. The thing that got us here, I would say a lot of prayer, a lot of hard work, a lot of treating folks like family. We really are big on our culture. So I think that, just the grit and determination and again, just making sure we're doing the right things along the way. Those are the kinds of things I would attribute to getting us to where we are today. In terms of our model, we're technically a B2B organization. So all of our clients are businesses. Those businesses comprise, though, both B2B and B2C. We are technically client agnostic. And if I were in front of a prospect, what I would say is we're a group that has 3 service lines: customer experience, lead generation, and digital marketing. Inside those 3 lines, we have 12 different core competencies, and we can get into those at some point. But what we like to tell a client is we're part technology and part people, and we're United States based. We're also part bricks and mortar and part remote workforce. So that's served us well over the years as well.
Very nice. Good explanation for starters. One of the things that we always want to focus on when we're franchising a new business is clarity in the offering. And Mike and his team have created a business model that's very effective and very efficient. And they have a very clear idea of what a franchise owner would do when they operate an outlet of theirs in a given market. So very, very good first step. So Mike, the theme this week is your firsthand decision process and the mindset that you experienced when making a decision to become a franchisor. And in being a franchise consultant and coach for many, many years and franchising two of my own businesses before I decided to become a coach, I understand the process of making the decision to become a franchisor, of course, because that's what we do every day. But when you are on the other side of the fence and you have a successful business, you have people probably telling you things like you should expand and you should open more offices. And boy, I wish I had one of these in my neighborhood. I would certainly use it. Or even people saying, I'd like to open up a branch of my own of your business in my neighborhood. You hear things like that. And I think a lot of business owners, as a matter of fact, I know a lot of business owners hear that quite often. And that gets people thinking about it. It gets people thinking about, well, what if I did expand? And I know that a lot of people have told me that there's a lot of excitement in that process, but there's also some fears, about losing possibly control or growing too fast or changing the quality. And so all of those things go through your mind. And so the theme today, we're going to go through different stages over the next several months in 4 different parts. And the first part is the mindset and the decision making to become a franchisor, because that's always the first step. I always say you can't try franchising. You either do it or you don't. It's a long process. It's a lot of work, and it definitely takes some investment financially and of time. And you want to be sure you're ready for it. So you have people that are on the other side of the fence wondering, should I do this? And then we'll go into the second stage, which is kind of building out of all the franchise parts of the system and kind of shoring up of the different things. And then we'll go into launching and onboarding your first franchises, and then growing and going into a national or international brand. And so those are the 4 stages we're going to cover. But today we're talking about the first step in a journey, which is making the decision to become a franchisor. So when you think about that question, Mike, when did you first begin thinking about it, and why?
So I think for us, of course, everyone has their own story for 2020. Everybody lived it. They know what it is. When we entered 2020, one of the things I mentioned earlier, we're client agnostic. So one of the verticals that we happened to be deep in was the franchise space. So we had some exposure and experience with franchising and servicing franchises, and the good, the bad, the ugly, all that came along with that prior to 2020. What we realized in 2020, because it was such a banner year for us, and I say that with the utmost humility, because I know for a lot of people it was not that. We just like everyone else, we were planning on battening down the hatches and trying to figure out what was next. What we realized was we knew going into 2020 that because of our technology and our people, and the fact that we have this agnostic approach, it makes us somewhat recession resistant. What we didn't realize until 2020 happened was we were also pandemic resistant, where most people last year were firing and furloughing. We had the good fortune of hiring and growing and still servicing our clients. I would attribute that to a lot of things, but what we realized, because of all the ugly that 2020 was, what we saw was the same thing everybody else saw: a lot of good, hardworking people out of work. And for us, that meant taking a look, because 2020 was also introspective in a lot of ways. We really wanted to think through the process of how can we help these people who are good, hardworking people that want to do the right thing, want to have a balance between work life and family life. And our model, it potentially is a work from home type of environment, which everybody got used to last year. And so really those kinds of factors really came into play for us, because we are so focused on our people internally. We're focused on our clients as people. And in this case, we have the opportunity to share that for folks who are looking for their next chapter in their career, or to add on to whatever they're doing professionally. And they can do it in a way where it's proven to be, again, recession resistant and potentially pandemic resistant.
Absolutely. I mean, and I know for Rick and I, we talk to folks a lot, right? In different business models, different industries. And, that was usually one of the first things we talked about in 2020 with our guests is, how are you dealing with the pandemic and kind of really analyzing, is this industry, this model pandemic proof, right? We started really zeroing in on that. What is that exactly? And it is important. We would absolutely say that. And I think it's going to be on people's minds going forward.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit more, Mike. I mean, what are some of the typical struggles that you kind of had just, as you started to make this decision and make some choices? What were some of the struggles you've had so far, just getting started?
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of goes back to a couple of core things we believe here. One, we believe people buy from people. Two, we believe relationships really build businesses. And because we're so focused on that person or that people aspect of our business, we also knew that we would have to do that with franchisees. It's very important that if somebody's going to make the investment in us, that they're a good cultural fit for us, that they're good. It's a good value systems fit, but that it's good for their family as well. So we really spent quite a bit of time going through that mindset of, can we really offer something that if somebody's going to invest in us, invest in our brand, can we really provide them something that's going to allow them to earn well and also balance that work-life balance, so that they can feel like they're proud of whatever it is they're building. I think another struggle for us, honestly, was, after this many years of doing the same thing, even though it's evolved, one of the things we talked about internally was, can we really take, let's call it 30 years or decades of experience and take it out of our head and give it to someone else in a way that they feel not only good about what they're doing and the kind of business they're growing, but can they really embrace it? Can they really understand it? Can we do a proper job of explaining it? So I think working through some of that internally, especially as we got really close to kind of taking the leap, that was a big concern for us, just to make sure that we're arming our franchisees with everything we can in an effort to make them successful.
Yeah. I just chime in real quick in that whenever we work with companies like yours, I mean, you solve one of the biggest challenges most companies run into when they grow and they scale, and that is sales and marketing and understanding how to do that right. So just being that's what you are. I know your franchisees will have some boxes really well checked, when it comes to that part.
Yeah. Again, I mentioned earlier, we've seen the good, the bad, the ugly in some of the space. And what we're really excited about is, we kind of joke around here, we drink our own Kool-Aid. We're really hoping that our franchisees will do that as well. I mean, we're trying to set it up so that they understand why we drink the Kool-Aid, not just what flavor it is.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah, that's a fair point, you guys, both of you, that you mentioned that EagleONE provides marketing and lead gen services and customer experience services to franchise companies, both franchisors and franchisees, right, Mike?
That's right.
Yeah. So you got to see from firsthand experience the good, the bad, and the ugly of franchising, and still you made the decision to move forward with franchising. And so that shows us that when you get a peek behind the curtain, the franchise model is unlike any other model. It's, of course, I'm a franchise geek, so I'm a little bit more enthusiastic about it than others. But when you really boil it down, franchising is the most successful business expansion model in the history of mankind so far. It's been something that's taken brands around the globe for many, many years and put more entrepreneurs into business than any other model that's been created. So good testimonial from that standpoint as well. But Mike, you've obviously decided to move forward and become a franchisor. And like I say in my book, when you become a franchisor, you are starting a whole new business. You're in the franchise business as well as the business that you have. So you're starting a new business that's exciting. There's a lot of benefits that I talk about in the book Franchise Bible, but the obvious ones are you can collect a franchise fee, you can collect a royalty or a commission split. You can obviously grow an enterprise that's going to be financially rewarding to you and your company as well as your franchise owners, and provide employment for folks in different communities and provide great services to help local businesses grow. So those are all some of the obvious benefits of franchising and expanding and having other people join and build your brand. And there's a lot of real obvious things that people think about when they franchise or want to franchise. But when you think about it, what are the benefits that kind of struck you and your team that convinced you that it was a project that you wanted to take on and become a franchisor?
Yeah, that was as I was thinking through that question, Rick, for us, if I look back, even over the last 7-10 years or so, our teams and their families, they've really worked hard to make us who we are today, not just in terms of the services we deliver, but it's this internal idea of commitment to the cause, putting others first, not losing sight of our faith and our family and our clients, those kinds of things. So I think if I was to ask the team, and I talked to them about what do you think is really exciting about this? And, part of it is we get to expand that now. Some of it's probably going to seem intangible long-term, but there's real intrinsic value in it. Because our work is always focused on ROI, right? We have this end game, this mission objective that is very kind of black and white in our work. And there's not a lot of feel good in that other than we're helping clients win. With the ability to expand the culture, now we get to prove some of our, inherent values, like you can do the right thing and make money. That it's okay to treat people, even though it's a business to business discussion, right? There's still a person on the other end of that table. So I think that was probably the primary one for the team, for sure. I think another one was the idea that we had to start the process. We had to really look into the proverbial mirror. There was a certain amount of introspection. Questions like, would somebody really invest in us? Are we really doing that good of work that somebody wants to invest and embrace our brand for a lifetime and create a business? So I think that helped us on a couple of levels. One was just getting real about who we are and where we are. I think the other really beneficial aspect was the fact that the team, the executive team especially, had to really get enlightened about each other's role through the process. And so all of a sudden there was this certain amount of granular appreciation, if you will, that they had for one another. They didn't realize all the roles and tasks because that was sort of outside their lane or outside their wheelhouse. So I think that built a certain amount of camaraderie with my executive team. And I think it's already, even though, we're kind of in the early phases still, I think it's already showing benefits to our clients, to our systems, to how we're evaluating how we do things, because it's a continual evolution. So I think those are the two things that really stood out for us.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you have your team, you have your professional team, but you also have your family, right? And when you make a big strategic shift like this with the company, how did you involve your family in this decision process and those close to you?
Well, I kind of chuckled when I saw that question, because there was really two major ways. And the first, I didn't really have a choice. So the first, so our COO, Diane, she all things operations, and she's really the backbone of our organization operationally. She serves as our COO, and I call her Sergeant Major by day, but off duty, I call her Mom. And so inherently, we are this family-run organization, and we both place our faith at a very high value. So we did a lot of praying, but we also just did a lot of talking. Is this really right for us? Is this the way we want to go? Is it really beneficial for the folks who are coming on board from the outside? The franchisees. So she and I talked quite a bit on a professional level, but also on a personal level. The other, I couldn't be doing this without my wife, Nicole. Honestly, I know it's going to sound a little cliche, but I married my best friend. We even involved the boys, Dylan and Sam. We talked to them about what it meant. What were the good things? What were the potential bad things? It's, out of the mouth of babes kind of thing. I mean, they're teenagers, but, I wanted to see if they had anything to say. What about this? What about that? I don't know that either one of my sons or any of our extended family will come into the business at all. Maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I wanted them to have a say, because this kind of decision and the magnitude that it carries is going to add to our workload. It's going to take away more free time. We're going to have more commitments to more people. Those are all blessings. But I wanted them to embrace the idea that this was ultimately good for the family. And I wanted them to have a vote.
I think that's incredible. It says a lot about the way you communicate, the way you lead, the way you manage. And I think that's important. And Rick and I know what the DNA of a franchise brand, what it should be, right? But it always starts with the mindset of the leader, right? And that you can't, that's just there or it's not. So anyone listening, Mike's here for a reason, and it's because he knows what he's doing and he leads the right way. And we like to talk about how that looks, but that's part of it, is looking at both his team and his family as one source, right, to pull from and to collaborate with and to get input from and buy-in from, because it's so important down the road. So that's incredible. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And you heard Mike say a little earlier about servant leadership, and in Franchise Bible, I talk about the upside down pyramid, and that's a model that we've coined over the years for coaching and teaching franchisors. The most important thing in being a leader in the franchise business is being a servant leader, and Mike has embraced that his whole career, and that will be very useful and moving forward in the franchise business. And when I'm a coach for franchisors, and we start with leadership, and not only the CEO founder, but everybody on the team, and we look at how to improve their leadership skills and make sure that they're rowing in the same direction, because they have a franchise network or a community of people that are going to buy in and rely on them to kind of be their guiding light. And so that becomes very important. So for those of you that are considering being a franchisor, think about your leadership skills and think about how you see yourself leading your franchise owner network as you grow your brand around the country, around the world. It's very, very exciting. And we talked about the benefits of franchising already, but the fun part starts when you start onboarding franchisees and you have your conventions and you have your monthly webinars and you get to hand out achievement awards and and really get to see people that their lives are impacted in a positive way. And of course, I started my career as a franchisor of two of my own brands. And it's very rewarding to see others make successful steps in their lives and provide for themselves and their families, and put their kids through college and stand on their own 2 feet and really have an impact on their community and innovate new amazing things and collaborate and bring new things to the franchise brand. And it's just a really, really great model when you look at it that way. So thank you for sharing that, Mike. That's kind of a little bit of a inside look at what it's like to kind of start out by making sure that your family is on board and supportive of what you're doing. And we do that with franchise prospects too. When we have somebody looking at a franchise to purchase, we want to make sure that they have support from their families as well, and that they've included them. So very important. So Mike, you kind of alluded to this earlier, but you have a pretty significant team with your business model. Some of my clients that we work with are just a small individual running a business, and some it's kind of a mom and pop operation where a husband and wife are working together. Sometimes it's a partnership. Sometimes it's a business that's pretty big and they have, a pretty sophisticated team like yours. So you have a pretty good sized team and a pretty significant business. Tell me a little bit about how you included your team members, your professional team members. And one of the important things, and I can say this from experience, is getting total buy-in, because I've had experiences in the past consulting franchisors where the team, certain members of their team weren't buying in to the overall project, which made it very hard and can actually stifle the progress of the entire franchise system if you don't get total buy-in. So that's absolutely necessary to move your franchise project forward in a positive way, because you can't afford in the early days or any time really to have people on board that really don't support the effort. So tell me a little bit about how you included your team members and how that looked as you started to make that decision to finally move forward.
Yeah, I would say for starters, some of it's in our history, Rick, right? So let me use a simple example. In our Cincinnati office, as just a very basic example, we have two doors that you can get into the building. Both have our logo on it, but one says guest entrance and the other says family entrance. It does not say employee. So it's that kind of walking the walk, those small things that matter. And so when you talked about buy-in from the executive team, when Diane and I sat the team down, we had this sort of group announcement. And it was right before the holidays, and we had already kind of broached the subject here and there, and certainly got their opinions on things. When we talked about it, they couldn't have been more excited. So when we say our team is like family, we mean that. Yes. We kind of joke around here that we've got a lot of gray hair at the top. I really embrace that. I can tell you that I'm the youngest member of our executive team. At the C-suite level, I embrace those gray hairs. I have plenty of my own, of course, but the where in some organizations that might be seen as top heavy or expensive or both. For us, I get to wield decades of experience per executive, right? And what I like about it is they're not only talented and bright, they're experienced, right? So it's not, they have some of the life experience that we need to overcome challenges, curveballs, et cetera. The other thing that we've sort of in our culture, especially at the executive level, our team's not afraid to tell Diane or I if it's a good idea or not, or they're not afraid to tell us no. So they would have gladly told us no without the fear of consequence, or they would have raised objections when we posed this idea to them. And we were grateful that no one did, Now, they certainly pointed out concerns and had a lot of questions and those kinds of things. But the fact that we did have the buy-in meant the world to Diane and I. And I can say that it's certainly shown up in the early stages of this developmental process because everybody's all in.
That's wonderful. And that's a definite important thing to write down, folks. If you're kind of thinking about it, a good place to start is with your family and your team to see if you get that total buy-in. But having your team like family or they are family is a good start, because as you grow a franchise network, you'll see they're just kind of like extended family. And that's really the best way. A lot of our franchisors call their annual convention the family reunion. So very, very good. Right, Rob?
Yeah, no, man, it's like I said, we look at franchising, the concept of it is that's what it's about. It's about being in business with a group of people that are like family, right? And people that can lead, be your Sherpa, lead the way, and have already done it, the hard work and learning that over the years. So having experience when you're dealing with a franchise brand is actually what you're investing in. They've done the hard work, right? They've made some of those mistakes, and they can help you avoid it. So those gray hairs are extremely valuable. Maybe I'm biased because I have gray hair too. So somehow that happened. I used to be the young buck, but now I'm the old guy. But anyway, yeah, it does. You can't always replace that experience part, right? Until you do it. There's a lot of smart people, a lot of innovative people, but having all those things and experience, man, I'll tell you, that's where you want to be. So yeah, that was great to hear.
Yeah, we're really hoping to, guys, that because we're in the position we're in, we can afford to be selective along this process as well. We're really going to be adhering to our faith, our values, those kinds of things. And again, because we act like family, we work like family, but sometimes we fight like family. That's okay. That's good, healthy work environment. And we'll probably see some of that from our franchisees. Maybe will challenge us, whatnot. We're okay with that as long as it's in the best interest of the group, the raise all ships kind of mentality.
Yeah. Agreed.
Very good. Well, gentlemen, we are getting close to the end of the show here. And I want to thank Mike. And of course, I know he's breaking away from his busy schedule and giving us this time on top of the rigorous work we've been giving him to franchise. And just so you understand in the audience that we always work with busy people. I've never had anybody come to me and say, "Hey, Rick, I want to franchise my business. I can give you 20 or 30 hours a week." Nobody has that time because they're running successful businesses, right? So when we have a franchise project underway, we start with a project management weekly meeting, and we have tasks and we have updates and we have things that we work through, and whatever pace that works for the team. If you want to get your franchise up and running in 60 to 90 days, it will be a little bit more aggressive. And that's kind of the pace we're on here with Mike's team. But if you want to take 6 months or more, then we can slow that down. It just depends on what your goals are. So we got a little bit of an insight today on what it looks like to make the decision to franchise your business. And of course, I always say to folks, when you're asking your friends and family, maybe your extended family, about whether or not you should franchise, or even some people out there in the professional world, you may get kind of a mixed bag of concerns, because a lot of people don't understand franchising. And I think, Mike, you can probably testify to that as well, that maybe they had a bad experience with a franchise, or maybe they heard horror stories, or maybe they think, well, you're not a McDonald's. Why would you franchise your accounting business? I don't get that. So, you can find good resources on franchising in a lot of places, Franchise Bible, entrepreneur.com, and a lot of things where people that get it can give you some good advice. But just don't be discouraged if the people that you come in contact with don't understand franchising and maybe don't encourage you as much, but definitely listen to your wife or husband and your kids when you make this decision, as well as your business team. So lots of ways we can help. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. It's not something that you have to rush into. And so just make sure that you want to be a franchisor. That's the big thing I always ask. So since we're getting close to the end here, Mike, I'm just going to ask you to share with our listeners one gold nugget, just a piece of advice that you would tell them if they're sitting there on their couch thinking about franchising their business. And I know it's early in the process, but you've gone through the decision-making process and you've decided to move forward and you're underway. By the way, folks, he's about a month into the process now, maybe a little more. And they are underway of becoming a franchisor. And we want to give you these real world experiences as they move through it. So next month, we'll be talking about what it feels like to build your franchise out and the process and the different steps of building out the operations manual and the franchise documents and the marketing plans and all the different leadership aspects as well. But this one, you've accomplished this step. So what's a gold nugget, Mike, that you'd like to share with the folks out there listening that are thinking, maybe I should franchise my business?
Yeah, I would say because I'm a history buff, I'm also an Army brat. My son's in boot camp for the Marines, hence the background. I kind of toggled with this a little bit. There's two that are connected. One quote attributed to Julius Caesar. The other one is to General McCauley, who is famous for the Battle of the Bulge for you history buffs. I would say burn the boats is the first, and that's Julius Caesar's quote. To Rick's point, all in. We sort of have that mentality around here anyway. If once we've made a decision, we're going to go get it, and even if there's a hiccup or curveball or whatever, because there always is. With General McCauley at the Battle of the Bulge, when he was encouraged to surrender to the German troops, he wrote a single word: nuts. It's nuts. There's just no chance I'm giving up on this, and we're going to push forward. And because there have been days so far even that have been difficult. The workload seems a little much on top of trying to run the business and service the clients. But as we start to see it come to fruition, it's a lot like an exercise program whether you start at the new part of the year or boot camp for that matter. You feel like you're really starting to see all the pieces come together. So again, make the decision, burn the boats. You don't give up. It's nuts to think you can turn back. So I would just continue to push forward, and when those difficult moments come, to the earlier parts of this discussion that we've had, lean on your family, lean on your team, lean on those folks who are kind of going through that stuff with you, because they're all feeling it. They're feeling the same thing, and just rally the troops and keep marching on.
That's great advice. And
yep.
And that's the unique thing about the systems we've created, is that we stay with you. And we know that a lot of people think that just getting all the documents and the manuals and everything together is the hard part. That's really the easy part. The hard part is, what do we do when we onboard the first franchise owner? And how do we get them set up and started? And how do we make sure they succeed? And how do we have those set up your owner's advisory council and start planning your first convention? And how do we really go for what we call the hockey stick growth? Instead of just kind of popping off a franchise once in a while, how do we get into a momentum? And how do we really build a network of franchise owners that are all in? And choosing the right ones are a big part of that, right, Mike? I mean, we talked about that we're not looking for everybody. We're just looking for the right fit, the people that really want to buy into EagleONE and really become part of your family and get out there and service the clients in their area. And that's really what it's all about, and buy into the ethos, the way you believe in running the business. And that's really exciting as well. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your time on this first part one of our exciting Real Franchise Experience Part 1, making the decision to franchise your business. So folks, make sure that you go to entrepreneur.com and look for the article The Real Franchising Experience, Part 1, Making the Decision to Franchise Your Business, just like the name of this show. And you'll be able to read an article that has more detail and more of the insights that we were able to glean from Mike Hutzel from EagleONE and the interview that we had with him today, and some resources there for you as well. And do join us for the rest of our 4-part series. Keep your eye out for it. And join us for the rest of our 4-part series. If you're thinking about franchising and you just want to ask questions, you can get a hold of us through franchisebiblecoach.com. And there is a way where you can set up a question and answer consultation for free. And there's also our 800 number there. If you want to have an actual coaching session, there's a way to do that too. So folks, if you're interested in learning more about franchising your business now or anytime during the process, you can go to entrepreneur.com/franchise-advisors/franchise-your-business. So that's going to be it for us today. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Rob. Rob, any final thoughts?
No, this was great. I'm looking forward to the next sessions with Mike. I'm looking forward to making that a franchise. It's a great business.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me, guys.
Well, thank you, Mike. And we're excited too. And so folks, if you're interested in learning more about EagleONE and maybe even think that EagleONE could be a potential franchise fit for you or someone you know, then certainly check out their website. What's a good website for them to check out now?
The easiest one to go to is www.eagle1group.com. Eagle, common spelling, numeric1group.com.
Perfect. And if you have any trouble getting a hold of them, folks, you can find us at franchisebiblecoach.com and we will get you pointed in the right direction. So thank you, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Franchise Bible Coach Radio podcast with Rick and Rob. I'm Rick Grossman signing off. Have a great week.